the likelihood that Biden wins this upcoming election is getting increasingly less feasible every single day. Every day that passes, where everyone is hyper focusing, zeroing in on his flubs over and over and over again, okay, is another day where his re-election chances are diminished. Biden is fighting to keep his campaign alive during solo press conference. I told you guys that it wasn't going to be as bad as you think it was going to be, and the media was going to play the role of covering it as like, he had some moments, but he ultimately pushed through. Look at what a big boy he is, and that is the overwhelming consensus. Obviously, in the normie sphere, everyone's talking about Vice President Trump. Everyone's talking about President Putin and all that kind of stuff. But in the media sphere, in the sphere of those with actual proximity to power, the way that this press conference was reviewed was, he showed that this is his favorite subject, and he's good at talking about NATO. Look at him. He's so good at foreign policy. And I'm obviously going to dissect some of the foreign policy takes that he has, both from the perspective of like, what does this do for his reelection? Is this actually impressive? And overall, like, do I agree with any of the things that he said about NATO? Obviously, the last part about it is that of course, that I am not in support of any of America's, foreign policy positions. Pretty much across the board, they're pretty bad. But let's continue.
Working to save his re-election campaign, the president took questions last night at his first solo news conference in 8 months. He showed command of foreign policy over nearly an hour, but also stumbled at times. The big question now,
I should have just let George say it, because he just literally said it. He said exactly what I said. He showed command over foreign policy, but he had some stumbles.
Elected Democrats fall in line or ease him out of the race. Chief White House correspondent Mary Bruce starts us off. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning, George. Well, the White House this morning.
The Majority Report. What's up, everybody? Thank you for the raid. The Majority Report. Hope you had a good stream. Welcome.
He is touting a strong performance from the president, but it is not clear if what we saw from him last night is going to be enough to turn the page. He did admit that there are other Democrats who could beat Donald Trump, but said it would be hard to start from scratch. And the president was adamant, unless his team can show him that he is headed for certain defeat, he's staying in this race. Overnight, despite a rising wave of opposition, President Biden making clear his mind is made up, convinced that he remains the best candidate to defeat Donald Trump.
I think I'm the most qualified person to run for president. I beat him once, and I will beat him again.
During an hour-long press conference, Biden taking questions from 9 reporters, hoping to demonstrate he has the mental fitness and stamina to stay in this race and lead for 4 more years.
I'm not in this for my legacy. I'm in this to complete the job I started.
But out of the gate, Biden mixing up his own vice president and his rival.
Look, I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president.
Trump seizing on that moment, writing, "Great job, Joe." But Biden firing back, yes.
He said, "Great job, Joe. Oh, you're doing great." It's so funny because, like, in a way, Trump can't be beaten on him too hard for 2 reasons. One, because he wants him to stay in the race because he knows that's a beatable candidate, okay? Unlike the rest of the Democratic lineup. And he also can't be beaten on him too hard because then he's going to look like he's just like doing elder abuse, and no one wants to see that. But of course, the fact that he's pulling his punches also causes other election watchers to see him as like a person that's moderating his positions. So in a way, it's a win-win-win for Donald Trump to just like kick back, let the media cycle eat Biden alive, and they just do the damn thing with the RNC. That's really gonna swap the attention, I think, unless Biden actually says some in between now and the RNC. Like, the media will of course shift their focus over to like how insane the Republicans are, even though I suspect that this RNC cycle is going to is going to have the Republicans trying desperately not to come across as like super radical. So we'll see.
Yes, I know the difference. One's a prosecutor and the other's a felon. Hours earlier, a similar mistake. Biden introducing Ukrainian President Zelensky as Russia's Vladimir Putin.
Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. We're going to beat President Putin.
President Putin. We're going to beat President Putin.
Zelensky. I'm so focused on beating Putin.
Pressed on that error, the president laughing it off.
You mixed up Presidents Zelensky and
Good catch, sir. You really killed it.
Putin earlier today.
Dismissing the moment and calling the NATO summit a success. But even as he pushed back against concerns about his age, the 81-year-old admitting,
I just got to just pace myself a little more. Pace myself. In the next debate, I'm not going to be traveling into 15 time zones a week before.
But the president was defiant, dismissing the growing chorus of Democrats calling for him to exit the race.
I served in the Senate a long time. The idea that senators and congressmen running for office worry about the ticket is not unusual.
Have you talked about the Eminem album yet? No, because I don't care. Like, I'm not that kind of millennial, okay? Like, that's crazy. I guess he, like, took shots at Candace Owens and stuff, but, like, I just don't know. You're just triggered. Yeah, I'm triggered. What did he say? Did he say mean things?
So there's a long way to go in this campaign. And so I'm just going to keep moving. And because, look, I got more work to do. We got more work to finish.
And while he said he has full confidence in his Vice President Kamala Harris's ability to be president,
from the very beginning, I made no bones about that. She is qualified to be president. That's why I picked her.
he made clear he would only reconsider his decision to stay in the race if polls show he has no path to victory.
No, unless they came back and said, there's no way you can win.
Uh-oh. They're giving him the solid edit again. Chat, this is a dangerous prospect, okay? They're giving him the dignity edit, okay? For the past 2 weeks, 3 weeks, they were not doing that. They were just showing it raw. Now they're giving him the dignity edit where, you know, they're just like chopping it up to make it sound like he's got making it sound like he is very coherent. Okay. Yeah, the coherence edit is here. This is we covered it yesterday, but the New York Times didn't give him the coherence edit and immediately wrote, without paraphrasing, exactly what he had said verbatim. President Biden said polling in the presidential race is premature because the campaign really hasn't even started. I mean, hadn't started in earnest yet most of the time at start till after September, after Labor Day. Where's the ellipses? The issue is not his current performance as much as what his performance will look like in a month, a year, in 3 years. Why doesn't he get this? Because he is a resentful, spiteful, old piece. Okay? And I'm done hiding the truth. Not only is it actually dementia, but he is reflective of the broader boomer side movement. And by that, I don't mean like, you know, genocide on the boomers. I mean the genocide that the boomers want to do to the rest of the world. Okay? That's it. That's literally it, brother. That's it. He is a spiteful, resentful old man, and many of us know those people in our immediate lives, people that are just holding on due to modern medicine going too far, extending the lifeline of all of these assholes who have captured 75% of the wealth. Okay? He's just a regular old, crusty ass boomer who's just like, why won't you give me what's due? I deserve it. I deserve it. That's it. He's just like, I've been in politics for 50 years. I'm the president. Look at how great my agenda has been so far. I deserve it. It's my time. It's my time. No mother midsummer time. Okay? It's midsummer time. I'm done. I'm done with the. I'm done with entitled ass boomers. I don't do a lot of generational politics because I think it's like ultimately it lends itself so perfectly to reactionary sentiment. But god damn, dude. God damn. What is going on in the world, brother? Everyone over the age of 65 is just going crazy mode. They need to dial it back and go. They need to be put out the pasture. Okay. Go live in a retirement home, you know, each other silly, get all of the gonorrhea on the planet. If you want to do all of that, that's fine. But stop, bag up. Okay. We need to do a forcible extraction of all of the wealth that is captured at the tippy top right now. And I don't mean by like, I don't know, the new geriatric focused economy that we are going into. I'm talking like just take their money, take their money. It's done. Take their power away. Take the keys to the car. No more boomers. Have you covered Project 2025 or the Jeff docs or just covered Biden being old? Please. And Trump is better. Have you covered Project 2025? Brother, you just started paying attention. You've been following since 2019. But like, I think you are telling on yourself. I'm a political commentator. I've been talking about Project 2025 not only for months, but also beyond that. Like I've described to you what Project 2025 is and how it has been in existence for quite some time. Oh, there's a chaotic donor situation happening as well. You uploaded a vid on your channel literally 2 hours ago on it. Yeah, that too. To be fair, you have a lot of returning people. I know. It's not necessarily that like I'm annoyed with the returning people who are just like now invested in politics again. I'm annoyed with the people that come in here with this attitude when they're like, seems like you're not covering any of the stuff that would actually reflect poorly on Donald Trump because of some secret reason. It's like, dude, that's you, man. That's your problem. Haven't watched since 2022 to be real law. Exactly. So why are you coming in here with this energy where you act like I'm secretly in the pocket for Trump or some shit? You cover Project 2025 or the Jeff docs or just covered Biden being old. It's like, what do you mean? Biden or Buster? Nah. As of 5 minutes ago, the latest House Dem to call on Biden to drop out did it to his face. Lamau, respect. All right, this is a bit unrelated, but could you briefly explain why you dislike NATO? Not right now. Yeah. Levin, apparently, Mike Levin, told Biden directly to his face that he should drop out. Translation, Joe, my internal polls look very bad. Please drop out. Yeah, that is what that means. And that's not a bad thing. That's a smart thing. Yes, Biden is unironically harming the entire Democratic Party's down ballot races. It's really bad. Amira Links, thank you for the 25 gifted subs. Oh no. Yo, John's popping. He said, thank you for holding me accountable. It is racist and sexist to believe Vice President Harris will be a stronger candidate than President Biden. I'm listening and I'm learning. Oh no, there's white on white crime happening right now. Okay. This is, ooh, goddamn. You don't like NATO? What are you, Trump? Oh, dude, so much worse. This is the funniest thing. Yeah. Excuse me. How dare you say Biden should step aside to let Kamala Harris be the president? Or to let Kamala Harris be the presidential candidate. Okay. Excuse me. Why are you saying that? Biden is a black man. Biden is a gay black woman, actually. And you guys are doing a no growth. You guys are doing a microaggression against a gay black woman like President Joseph Robinette Biden. Okay. Also notice the thing that the first tweeter has in common with them. Yeah. Lawyer, legal commentator, fighter for democracy, prosecutor Trump University at New York AG, commentator of MSNBC. All these folks calling Biden to quit. They're all white guys because Biden is black. They're all also collectively saying Kamala would be a better candidate than Biden. It's so funny because like absolutely zero people give a shit about like what the broader black community or the black voter base has to say, because polling has been conducted on the black voter base time and time again. And their opinions also reflect the opinions of these white people in positions of power. But zero people are talking about that. Okay? Like zero people are talking about that, which is so funny It's just a conversation exclusively that white people are having. Is this quote tweet a joke? Yes, the quote tweet is a joke. John Lovett and the Pod Johns are experiencing what I have experienced for almost my entire career, being treated like pariahs, Bernie bros. They're being treated like Bernie bros. Yeah. Also, the other part of this equation is that I don't like lean in too much with the black vote is shifting narratives, but like the black vote has to a certain degree shifted in unprecedented levels over the course of the past decade. Not in a significant way, mind you, of course, but like the idea, the notion that like, oh, black people want Joe Biden, that's why you're racist, is so stupid. Still kills me that John Lovett was the first ever Fearing guest. Oh yeah, that's right. New inside the meeting with Biden and the Hispanic caucus. Biden showed up an hour late to the Zoom. Frontliners MGP and Gabe Vasquez tried to ask questions but were denied. Levin told Biden to step aside. Call ended right after Biden responded to Levin. Oh my God. Oh my God. Shit is not doing all right. Why is the BBC so bloodthirsty? Let me say this as clearly and as simply as I can. Inaudible. That's not real, by the way. That's not real. I don't think they actually posted that. They say, I'm still running. It's an edit. John Lovett was my MUFO, and like the tweet I made about Frank Sinatra being Ronan's dad, I didn't even know they were married at the time. Were they I didn't even know that they were married to this day. I thought they were just dating. And I know both of them. Oomphy is AAVE. Yeah, MHUD doesn't do AAVE out of respect. They were engaged, sorry. I know they're not together anymore. Yeah, John bag, big time. There was a guy watching your stream during the NATO conference. No, that's not real. That's so funny. You guys are so stupid. Oh, dude. I do have a lot of people in the media that watch me. Oh my God. Oh, okay. That's a 10-10 top of the hour debate. I'm hanging it up. Disastrous Biden call with the Hispanic caucus. Yeah, we just covered that. But apparently it gets worse. According to the source, Biden responded to Levin's comment. The host tried to end the meeting, but Biden said he had time for one more question. Despite the president trying to take another question, the host, Representative Linda T. Sanchez, ended the meeting anyway. That got a 998 out of 10. 602 raters. It's a good rating. Someone always it up. 998. It deserved a 10, but I don't think we've ever actually gotten a 10 out of 10. Someone always it up. There's always like a couple haters. Guardian is coming out with the knives too. Hakeem Jeffries linked up and built with Brandon today as well. Hakeem Jeffries reportedly did not offer Biden his endorsement in the private meeting, which is pretty wild. For anyone on the Hill, this letter is explicit permission, perhaps even tacit support for coming out against the president. It seems neutral. It isn't. Yeah. He's so Jeffries is basically as I've said before, Jeffries is Nancy Pelosi's guy, right? Nancy Pelosi basically groomed him for this position. So he is going to do exactly what Nancy Pelosi said, and that's precisely what he's doing. Dear colleague, Hakeem Jeffries' letter. Over the past several days, House Democrats have engaged in a thoughtful and extensive discussion about the future of our country during a time when freedom, democracy, and the economic well-being of everyday Americans are on the line. Our discourse has been candid, clear-eyed, and comprehensive. On behalf of the House Democratic Caucus, I requested and was graciously granted a private meeting with President Joe Biden. That meeting occurred yesterday evening. In my conversation with President Biden, I directly expressed the full breadth of insight, heartfelt perspectives, and conclusions about the path forward that the caucus has shared in our recent time together. As House Democrats have done throughout this Congress, we will continue to work in the best interest of everyday Americans. Thank you for your continued leadership in the service of the communities we are privileged to represent. Sincerely. So this right here, and Izzy is literally used to be a press person. I think might still be, but used to be a press person for Ilhan Omar. I think still is the press person for Ilhan Omar. Like this is what he does. He writes these letters. Okay. This is the type of His job is literally to write that, okay, for a congressperson. So he's absolutely correct on this. For anyone on the Hill, this letter is explicit permission, perhaps even tacit support for coming out against the president. It seems natural. And it seems neutral. It isn't. And he's right. He is basically doing what political reporting came out about yesterday that Nancy Pelosi was doing. Nancy Pelosi apparently told House Democrats, like urged them to, one, speak out against Biden, and two, if they have to, if they have to call out Biden and call him to resign, then and it's going to help their elections, they should do so. That is the exact opposite of what you do as the House Speaker. Okay? Nancy Pelosi's entire job, throughout her entire career, has been to make sure that that never happens. So the fact that she is allowing leaks to happen, okay, and in those conversations, basically saying, no, you can come out against Biden, giving explicit permission, okay, to come out against Biden at a time when Hakeem Jeffries and Nancy Pelosi are supposed to be Biden's greatest allies that are supposed to stop this flow of discontent, means that they want him out. And the reason why they want him out, is because they see the dire prospect of the down ballot races with Biden at the top of the ticket. And beyond that, they see the dire prospect of Biden's reelection. I think ultimately it would be, at this point, considering that Biden has kept it going for this long, I would say that at this point it would be silly to drop out before the RNC, especially when a lot of the RNC communications is going to be around the top of the ticket being Biden. Some of them have actually recalculated, and some of the Republicans have actually started retriangulating their messages against Kamala Harris. No, not DNC, RNC. RNC is happening next Monday. The RNC is starting in the next 3 days. Donald Trump is going to reveal who his vice president is in the next 3 days. I already ran the 3-minute ad break, chatter. Stop. I got destroyed, remember? Ultimately, yeah, it's going to be JD Vance, but that's different. Right now, even if they had convinced Biden to drop out, I doubt, even if they had convinced Biden to drop out yesterday, or today, or tomorrow, I doubt that they would come out before the RNC. They want the media to pay attention to the madness cycle of the Republican Party. So it would be significantly better. It would be genuinely smart to, wait until after the RNC is done to come out with the Biden dropout revelation. That is, if they have actually convinced the old man to listen to reason. Having said that, in that time frame, however, where is it? You got donors saying they're going to freeze roughly $90 million as long as Biden stays in the race. Biden won't quit unless Obama comes out against them running publicly. Yeah, that is really chaotic, though. I don't understand why waiting would be better. Wouldn't it cause people to focus on the bad shit stuff that the RNC is doing? No. Biden dropping out is a major week-long media cycle affair, maybe even a month-long media cycle affair. He drops out, then people shift their focus to who the new person is. No. That would dominate the news cycle in the same way that Biden's current bad brain is dominating the news cycle. This is very fortuitous for Donald Trump, because every moment that the media apparatus is not covering Donald Trump's insanity and ridiculous reactionary sentiment and how chaotic he is, how disordered the Republican Party is, and how they are responsible for abortion, is a good moment for the Republicans and their electoral prospects. So the Democrats, in terms of the upcoming election, really desperately need the media to shift their focus onto the RNC. And Biden's flubs currently are kind of making that hard. So right now, I would go so far as to say that the Monday meeting with Lester Holt is a bad move. I think that Biden's team is bad. Okay, I'll just say it like that. I think Biden's campaign is not good. We already knew that they were not good when they decided to trot him out in front of 50 million people in an early ass debate that is now going to possibly cause him to leave the election altogether. That's a big deal. That's a massive flub. I'm trying to find it, but there was a political scientist saying that Biden dropping out right after the RNC would be unlike anything we have a history of because it sucks the air out of their message and let Dems remake it however they want if Dems were smart. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, no, I am in agreement with this. I think that tactically it would be an incredible move. It would be an incredible move to just wait out until after the RNC if the Democrats were united, if they were smart, which they are not, and they are cowardly, they are feckless, they are legitimately scared. Some for good reason, because obviously making bold proclamations about the top of the ticket, demanding that the top of the ticket drop out is going to create an air of panic. But having said that, it would be pretty solid move. Biden's soul is willing, but the flesh is spongy and bruised. True. Who is favored to win the 2024 election? 538 uses polling, economic, and demographic data to exploit likely election outcomes. Biden wins 50 times out of 100 in our simulations over the 2024 presidential election. Trump wins 49 times out of 100. There is less than 1 in 100 chance of no electoral college winner. What do you mean? What are they smoking? The data is perfectly accurate, I swear. Why are you guys doing the same thing that the Democrats are doing when you see something that doesn't reflect what you immediately thought the race looks like? Guys, I have maintained the position that there is still a likelihood that Biden wins this election, okay? All things considered. The problem is not whether or not Biden can win the election. The problem is how unlikely it is at a time when it should not be a toss-up at all. Do you not understand the problem here? The fact that there is still a likelihood that Biden can win the election is the reason why he's holding on for dear life, which is really fucked up. A lot of the new polling that's coming out shows him losing popularity in swing states, and that's pretty significant, okay? Internal numbers are showing that they're underwater, and that's also pretty significant. Having said that, however, this is not a 50-50 race, okay? This should not be a 50-50 race. This should be a 70-30 race. If there was currently a competent leader at the top of this ticket, it would be 70% favoring the Democratic Party, 30% favoring the Republican Party. But right now, it isn't there. And that's a massive problem, especially considering how much worse the media cycle is going to get for the top of the ticket and what the down ballot implications are. All of the other Democrats that are unfortunately running in the same election cycle as a 800-year-old man whose only prescient message is going to be, okay, we beat Medicare. If that is the guy leading the party, everyone is only going to talk about that. And the more they talk about that, the less likely it is for Democrats to be able to captivate those who are just not interested in voting. RCP polling honestly seems more accurate, and this was in 2020. RCP polling is not more accurate. RCP is always at a right-wing bias, in my opinion. RCP, in my opinion, leans a little bit to the right. And especially when we have such a close race, which shouldn't be close at all, but a close race nonetheless in terms of the polling, the RCP results are going to show right-wing bias in general. It is a polling aggregator, yes, but the weight that you place on different polls obviously matters quite a bit. All of these different polls have ratings, okay? All of these different polls have leanings. So poll aggregators weigh those biases when making these when they make these kinds of assessments, okay? And how you differentiate between polls is what ultimately makes you a better aggregator. And RCP ultimately is like, right-wing leaning. You're just calling it right because you don't agree with it? Wait, what? Dude, I think people are very confused when they say stuff like this. Because, like, do you think I'm confused because do you think I'm coping because I love Biden or something? It's been 4 years that I've been talking about how Biden is old and he's going to be a one-term president and that he should not have been the candidate for the Democratic Party in 2020. And that was a massive mistake for the Democratic Party's continuation. And that was a massive mistake for policy in general. And in some ways, Joe Biden actually outperformed my expectations, like his commitment to leaving Afghanistan, which I will always defend. And also, some of his administration's federal agency moves have been pretty solid. He's been more pro-labor. This is another thing that I will always stand on. He's been more pro-labor than I thought he would be. And he's also been kind of dark on other issues. Bad instincts overall as far as a centrist elder statesman in terms of hyping up the likes of Kyrsten Sinema, not whipping the votes adequately for his own policy agenda, allowing the IRA to get neutered, allowing Build Back Better to be destroyed. There are plenty of things that he did that I disagree with ultimately, but all things considered, if we're grading on a curve in terms of how the Biden administration has looked like pre-October 7. On October 6, he's looking pretty solid. Lies for content. Yes, bro. Failfish, ride or die. Copium, holy copium. Lies for content. Yeah, I am a secret Biden loyalist. A secret Biden loyalist who has been calling him, joking, sorry, I'm at work. Yeah, I'm a secret Biden loyalist who's been talking about the genocide that he is committing for the past 9 months, virtually every single day. Literally almost every single day. It's because I have that level of commitment and trust in my secretary, okay? In my general secretary, in my chairman, okay? I want him to defeat the naysayers on New Game Plus difficulty. That's how much I love him. That's how much I know he will thrive in spite of the odds. Odds that I am actually playing into.
Me. No one's saying that. No poll says that.
The president
Insane.
telling his doubters he's not finished yet.
Am I getting the job done? Can you name me somebody who's gotten more major piece of legislation passed in 3.5 years? I created 2,000 jobs this last week. So if I slow down, I can't get the job done. That's a sign that I shouldn't be doing it. But there's no indication of that yet. None.
Now, despite what they feel was a strong night for the president, the campaign tells me they are braced for even more Democrats to come out and call for him to exit the race. But they insist they can turn this around if they just stay the course, if they keep getting the president out there in front of voters and the American people. And that he is going to be doing that again today. He'll be in the key state of Michigan with a big rally in Detroit, where the president is hoping he can turn the spotlight back on Trump and his agenda. George.
Okay, Mary, thanks.
We're joined now by CBS News chief political analyst John Dickerson and Democratic strategist and CBS News contributor Ashley Etienne. Good morning to both of you.
Morning.
John, there have been some extraordinary press conferences in presidential history. Usually they're about the substance of the press conference. In this case, it was about the performance of it. Could he handle the questions? How do you think he did?
Well, he didn't do as poorly as he has done, which is where we are in this conversation, which is where is the bar for the president going in, and did he clear it? I mean, I saw somebody refer to it as a make or break press conference. It didn't break, but making it, which for him is stopping the bleeding from the debate, shoring up support in his own party, and then taking it to Donald Trump, he's still got those 2 other tasks to take care of, which is shoring up his own party. I think basically what my reporting suggests, and I really want to know what Ashley has to say about this, is basically where you sit is where you stand in terms of how you responded to the press conference. If you are worried about him in the future and if he can carry out this campaign in 4 more years, you're still worried. If you were a supporter, you found things in it that you could support. And so we're basically at the status quo. The problem for the president is status quo is not based on the polls and everything else. He's got to do more than that.
So, Ashley, where is Democratic leadership on this? And I want people at home to know you've had a comms director role with the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. You've had a comms director role with the Vice President, Kamala Harris, and you had a role in the Obama White House. You know these folks. What are they thinking today?
Absolutely. And I will say that the consensus is that the president actually had a good performance yesterday, and that he, to some degree, did stop the bleeding. But it's not clear that this will hold for the president. There were meetings until 1 a.m. last night with the caucus, various factions within the caucus. The president's problem really is that there's the caucus now is divided. Democratic caucus is.
He called Vice President Trump is not copium, dude. These are people. Okay. I'm going to say something here. Joe Biden is significantly more demented than Joe Biden of 4 years ago, significantly more demented than Joe Biden of 10 years ago. Having said that, however, in his moments where the light is on, in terms of his foreign policy, what these people care about, okay, he is definitely smarter than Donald Trump, okay? He's more, in terms of the military-industrial complex, he's more reasonable, not as volatile as Donald Trump. Okay, but that does not reflect the attitude of the broader electorate. As a matter of fact, sometimes or oftentimes it is directly at odds with what the voters care about. This already happened in 2016 with Hillary Clinton, the Secretary of State. This is a verbatim, one-for-one, direct, identical carbon copy of the way that the media looked at Hillary Clinton and said, she is a brilliant person at statecraft. She is the Secretary of State. She knows what foreign policy looks like. Trump doesn't know anything. He doesn't know his ass from his elbow. It didn't matter because the entire American project revolves around Americans not paying attention to the death and destruction that America causes globally. And that is the reason why Americans don't give a about their foreign policy, for good or for bad. Normally, in order to maintain American imperialism, yes, you have to sedate the masses. You have to make sure that they don't even ever comprehend the death and destruction that we are responsible for overseas. Because if you had to think about that all the time, look at Gaza. If you had to think about that all the time, you'd go crazy. So therefore, when Biden is like genuinely a brilliant person when it comes to foreign policy in terms of in comparison to someone like Donald Trump, Americans don't give a shit. If anything, they think Donald Trump actually simplifies these otherwise very complicated things when he says, I defeated ISIS. I killed the most, the scariest terrorist of all time. Do you get it? Do you understand? And that's precisely the reason why it didn't work in 2016 when the media narrative was like, Hillary Clinton knows what she's talking about. Isn't she brilliant when it comes to foreign policy? Versus a guy who literally said, I like my war heroes that were not captured, okay? Which was personally something that I found to be awesome. I mean, he John McCain. That was dope. Anyway, let's continue.
It's divided into two major factions. One, there's a group that feels like, hey, listen, we can't be arguing for democracy all over the country. And
so the American public is stupid. I mean, they're just self-interested. That's number one. And number two, yes, they are. We are all stupid. We're stupid too, okay? We're all dumb in different ways. But like, don't think that you're personally significantly more intelligent than the average person because you care about foreign policy. There's plenty of who care about foreign policy. Anyway, let's continue.
Not sort of honor those primary voters and their decision to support Donald Trump. To support Joe Biden. We can't undermine that. Then there's another faction that's saying, hey, listen, this stopping the bleeding doesn't solve the problem. He's 82 years old. If it's episodic, there'll likely be another episode, and we can't have it be more profound and come at a time where you run out of the clock. So I agree. I mean, I think that the challenge right now, I'm hearing that there's still going to be leadership that's going to meet with the president over the weekend, somewhat of a mini intervention. But also what they want to hear from the president is what's the plan going forward. They think, to Dickerson's point, that the strategy is off kilter. It's not working at this point, and then he needs to recalibrate the strategy and get back on the offense.
And that is the question. I mean, where does the Democratic Party stand when it comes to what is the game plan going forward if it is not President Joe Biden? Are they standing with Kamala Harris, the vice president?
Well, that's really the challenge I'm hearing. The major sort of source of the infighting over the past week within the caucus has been this question of the alternative. You know, there's of these two factions, one has argued you can't go in and ask the president to step down without a plan. There is no plan and there is no consensus. So really the president's next big challenge at this point is, can he unify this party? Can he reassure those members? And it's not going to.
Dude, this is so funny. I don't know, Hasanabi, do what you want for your platform, but I think it's best we drag Biden across the finish line. First of all, I'm not at the finish line with Biden regardless. You know what I mean? Whether they drag him across there or not. Okay, that's number one. Make no mistake. Number two, mainstream Dems and Dems in general are way concerned with optics. That's why the GOAT Bernie never won. The polls are turning because of optics. It says C-SPAN Stan says Biden's going to lose. That's why the mainstream Dems are saying the same. It's about polls, not optics. And Bernie didn't lose because of optics. He lost because the moderates wanted him out. Ultimately, dragging Biden across the finish line is not going to happen. There is no finish line there. Or at least a finish line where the Democrats win. Okay? The likelihood that Biden wins this upcoming election is getting increasingly less feasible every single day. Every day that passes, where everyone is hyper-focusing, zeroing in on his flubs over and over and over again, okay, is another day where his re-election chances are diminished. That's it. This does not mean that, like, if the election was tomorrow, Biden definitely loses, but the likelihood that he loses is pretty high when he shouldn't be losing at all.
Be press conferences and interviews any longer. He's got to touch, he's got to feel them. I still stand by this argument that it was a mistake that the president didn't go to the caucus meeting this week, that the vice president is not over meeting with the Senate members, you know, because the question is whether or not there'll be more defections, and I'm hearing that there will be.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's.
John, is Joe Biden still the only one? He says he's the guy who's best positioned to beat Donald Trump. Do you feel that's true?
I mean, what are the 46,000 voters in the 6 or 7 battleground states going to determine at the time? I mean, part of the reason this is so complicated is all the analysis has to guess at where those voters who are going to make this campaign are going to be at the time they make their decision. And there's a whole lot of certainty, and very little of it is grounded in reality. Everybody's having to imagine the worst possible Joe Biden case and the worst possible replacement of Joe Biden's case. We're in the realm of imagination. Anybody who says they have dead certainty about this is crazy. That's the problem.
Yeah, can I just add this, though? The members within the caucus that are currently not supporting the president and are saying there needs to be an alternative are pointing to the president's own memo that the campaign released just yesterday, I believe it was. There's a line in there. If you dig really closely, they basically say that the race has remained static if you look at the poll, but there has been some movement. And
Nobody pay attention to the psycho on the red side, though, is such a funny take. Like, dude, you cannot wish cast Brandon's cognitive decline away, okay? Like, what are you talking about? You can't do that. Like, I get it. You really, really want the media to be like, Trump is bad. Everybody kind of understands that already, with the exception of, like, the absolute psychos, okay? But, like, the notion that, like, oh, people aren't paying enough attention to Donald Trump is so stupid when he is quite literally shutting the for the first time in his life when he normally would be chirping. Do you notice why he's shutting the? Because obviously Biden's mental fortitude, or lack thereof, rather, is more important in the media cycle than what you know about Trump already. What Trump has said a million times over. You can want the American public to just close their eyes to that reality of Biden's obvious cognitive decline, but that's not going to happen. It doesn't work that way. But of course, a lot of people who have this kind of attitude, like Democratic Party loyalists who are behaving like Biden dead enders right now, always have the exact same narrative run, which is, well, Hillary Clinton will win if you vote for her. Well, you know, you guys are just not voting for the Democratic Party hard enough. It's your fault. That's not how elections work. You need to start holding your politicians and their staffers accountable for running bad campaigns. It's very stupid to just be like, oh, dude, I don't understand why voters just won't get their shit together. I don't even do that for Bernie Sanders. I was very critical of Bernie Sanders's campaign in both of the primaries, okay? Because ultimately, it's up to him to win. Because you're a lib, can't say how I know, but polling shows that talking about Project 2025 doesn't persuade people. It's so funny that I always forget that there are so many Hasanabi heads in places that they would never openly admit they work at. And I guess it's obviously understandable because like this is a community that almost exclusively talks about politics. But I'm always shocked when I meet someone out in the wild and they're like working at the DHS or some shit, you know what I mean? Or working at like a think tank that I would never expect. And they'll be like, yeah, I'm a big fan of yours, but you know, they're trying to get the bag. Anyway.
That movement is among what they characterize as historically Democratic constituencies. That's the base. So you've got folks like the CBC members and others that are saying, wait a second, if we're bleeding support among our base, Houston, we have a much larger problem than we thought.
The president seemed to understand that when he said, if the numbers show that I can't win, then that will make me...
But he's got to understand, he's got to believe that the numbers ever going to show him, and he seems in a posture that he isn't.
Right.
One last point, this is exhausting for Democrats to have the president, every time he shows up, look like a bear on roller skates, where it could go any direction.
That's right.
And that's the loop he's in.
Yeah, but the Republican convention next week creates opportunity for the party.
More bears on.
But before we get to that, actually, let's talk about the Brandon campaign. We talked about the disastrous Hispanic caucus meeting, but apparently the Brandon campaign is now attacking another group of allies.
That is the most important election of our time, the democracy at stake. And we can have a good faith disagreement without doing this. And then just as a political operative, it's just the incompetence of spending your time fighting Pod Save America, David Axelrod, George Clooney, and the most popular figure and the most popular figure in the Democratic Party at a time when you were struggling with black voters is fucking insane.
And again, and I don't know who's doing it in the White House. And like I believe firmly that it's not the people that we know and are friends with, not just because they wouldn't do that to us, but because I think they're smarter than this, because this is just like really stupid shit. And the reason we're bringing it up in the New York Times is we know, because reporters are reaching out to us, that the Biden White House is just pushing around stuff on us. I had multiple calls from reporters today asking, saying that 2 White House sources told them that I wrote George Clooney's op-ed. That's the rumor.
This is craziness. Okay? This is craziness. When your dog turns the snakes, meth. Why? Biden doing a Nixon speed run, that Supreme Court ruling might come in handy. It is madness, dude. Biden's team communicated to, I believe it was either Politico or New York Times, that if the donors are pulling out, they'll do it without them. Sorry to spam. I just really wanted to see you, but I worked at Lockheed for 5 years, but you inspired me to finally quit my job 2 months ago, and now I have a part-time job organizing at the AFT union. I'm really broke, but much happier because you inspired me. Hell yeah, run the ad break. Critical support for the Pod Johns, yes.
That a bunch of outlets were ready to go with until they finally reach out for me. They think that I was writing George Clooney's op-ed.
I mean, it was a very well-written op-ed, so it's kind of a compliment.
I know, I probably should have just taken credit for it. Yeah. But
Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer will not attend Biden's Michigan appearance on Friday. Senator Gary Peters, a steadfast Biden supporter, and Representative Elisa Slotkin, who is vying for Michigan's open Senate seat, will also be absent. United Auto Workers President Sean Fain is traveling for a conference and won't attend either. So who's going to attend? This man is going to lose Michigan, bro. I swear to God. I mean, he's so cooked. He's so cooked. You immediately need to be like, we're swapping him out. Kamala Harris has already leaked to the press and also publicly stated that she is outflanking Biden on Israel's genocide in Gaza. It's just pack watch time. Prepare for the true BDS incoming. Biden dick suck. Okay.
Unpredictable hour in terms of how much.
What do you say to the argument that it's the administration, not the president, that defines executive policy, and as such, all this attention on Biden is not functionally relevant in terms of governing? Yeah, that's wonderful, except that's not how elections work. Okay? I don't disagree with that, But that's not how elections work. The average voter does not vote on that. The average voter literally votes for the dumbest shit, like, I can have a beer with this guy. Okay? So liberals are just delusional. He's so toxic to any voter. Just let him go before he alienates every single normie. I don't understand how Democrats are so stupid. It's not that Democrats are stupid. It's that Biden is I mean, Democrats are stupid and Democrats are cowardly. But this is one of those few instances where like there is a lot of stink coming from the Democrats, enough stink that like they're communicating to the best of their ability without like rocking the boat too hard because they don't want to their bag. Democrats, and I've repeated this so many times at this point over the course of the past 2 weeks, Democrats can't come out and swing for the top of the ticket so aggressively that it shows too much chaos internally. So they're doing their very best to try to get Biden to understand, like, hey, man, it'd be nice if you just stepped aside. Anyway, let's continue.
News the president was going to break. I mean, we're all watching for the president's performance here, but he did also break some news just on the issue of domestic politics, talking about saying the delegates to the Democratic Convention are free to vote their conscience, describing that, answering that in such a way as if that's obvious. That's not necessarily a thing that is obvious. Also, the president laying down at the very end of his remarks there a sort of predicate for what it would take for him to leave the race. He said he would leave the race if his advisors came to him and showed him the data that said there was, quote, no way you can win, meaning no way that he, President Biden, could win. He then also said emphatically that no poll says that. But he's essentially establishing that as the threshold that would need to be crossed if he was going to leave. So, and I won't go on at length. I will just say, though, you noted that there were some moments of, startlingly impressive command of the issues. This is just my opinion. He is not only strong on foreign policy, he is just fundamentally right on foreign policy in the way that he talks about it. And again, your mileage may vary. That is how I feel about the way he talks about our relationship with our allies and our relationship with NATO. You can hear his command of the issues, particularly in his asides, like mentioning as an offhand way that it was Turkey really that needed really to be talked into an expansion of NATO that included Finland and Sweden, talking about the numbers of Russian troop losses in Ukraine, talking about the fact that he turned in his notes after he spoke privately with President Xi, alluding to the fact that Trump had all those weird meetings with the Russians and Putin in which he had no note taker present. I mean, it's even in the little asides where it just shows you he is a master of the foreign policy field and has been for decades in his career in the Senate, the vice president, and the presidency. And yet he undercuts his own presentation of those facts simply in the way that he presents them, with his self-interrupting and elliptical style, the very soft-spoken monotone that he sometimes uses. There's a big mismatch between his stylistic presentation and his truly masterful command of the subject matter on the subject that was the main focus of this presser, which was foreign policy.
That's, I think, incredibly well said. I would also note on foreign policy, he also got a question about Israel, a very long answer that was interesting, and I think measured in ways that some of his previous statements on that conflict haven't quite been.
Dude, this is literally, come on. Of course Rachel Maddow is going to be sucking on that, dude. Are you kidding me? This is Rachel Maddow, who was losing her mind when Donald Trump was like, yeah, I don't really care. Let North Korea and South Korea deal with one another personally, which was like one of the only instances where Donald Trump was in the right in terms of foreign policy. And she was losing her mind. She was like, I can't believe that Donald Trump agreed to not do military training in the Korean peninsula. He is a secret agent for Kim Jong-un. Like, she is a massive dick rider. Is a massive dick rider of American imperialism.
And he also said, it's time for this war to end. I mean, that statement, which also struck me as news. It's time for this war to end, I believe, was the sentence that he uttered. Let me go to you, Joy, for your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I think in some ways this was a classic Biden. Foreign policy is his bailiwick. He was, chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. As he mentioned, this is his strong point. And I think the parts where the press conference went into foreign policy and became rather sort of a mundane press conference, this was not like strictly the White House press corps. So it gave President Biden an opportunity to be normal. A lot of this struck me as just very normal. And I think that is something that he needed. This was President Biden as the longtime policy wonk. He gave himself credit for getting 50 nations to.
You'd be so canceled that Liv saw you call her a dick rider. What do you mean? Why? Oh, because she's a lesbian? Yeah, okay. That's obviously we're not talking about actual penis here. All
agree
right?
to expand NATO.
Ain't nobody's riding Biden's.
He was very, there was a lot of sort of self-praise of his own foreign policy, which I think is important. He touted his victories. He had a really.
Yeah, also, Biden being a masterful foreign policy demon is such a funny. Like, we have not even addressed the contents of Biden's statements, okay? Biden is not a foreign policy demon. He's just good at foreign policy from the perspective of those who want America to who want America to continue doing a shit ton of wars, okay? But ultimately, he's not very good at foreign policy either. Look at Israel. How is he a master at foreign policy when the Israeli situation has been so bad that it got Americans to literally, genuinely change their entire perception of a group of brown people that they have been primed to hate? In my lifetime, I would have never imagined that a population that is overwhelmingly Muslim, a population that is entirely Arab, being ethnically cleansed by our most important ally would actually be seen as a negative by the majority of the American population. That is insane. That's insane. That's unheard of. That's unimaginable. Netanyahu is basically making Biden bark and jump, making him do little tricks. And then we have to sit here and be like, well, he knows what the good countries are, the good countries, and he knows what the bad countries are by name, and he can call it out. Like, talk about grading on a curve here. Holy shit. Let's be for real. All right. He's not exactly good at foreign policy either. It's just that because our expectation is that he's going to flub over and over again and fail disastrously, that when he is able to string a sentence together and come across as coherent, everybody goes, well, look at this big boy. He did the damn thing.
Really passionate moment at the end where he talked about the fact we need to control guns, not girls. And he got really passionate about more children being killed by a bullet than any place on earth in the United States of America. So he showed some passion there. I think, the gaffes and mixing up names, I think for people who've been observing Joe Biden for a really long time, that's actually just normal Biden. Like, he does mix up names. Was known for gaffes. This is the joke that was always about Joe Biden, is that he's the gaffe.
I'm actually also confused at like Joanne Reed saying this right now, because she's also been like probably one of the most vocal critics of Biden's Israel policy. Like, what happened? Did you just do you have amnesia? Did you forget all of that? Did you get new directives from the executives like MSDNC, once again?
Guy. So I don't know that is necessarily going to harm him in some special way. It's the fact that he had the energy, the capacity, and the ability to be normal Joe Biden, if a little more hoarse, if a little bit more, obviously older, just an older version of the Biden that we've sort of gotten used to over the years. It was the abnormality of the Biden in the debate with Donald Trump that threw people off so much. But I will close just by saying the guy that we just saw for the last hour is definitely not someone who is considering leaving the race. He cited the polls showing that there's no data that he's seen that says that he can't win. He was very praiseworthy of Kamala Harris, of Vice President Harris, as he should be, and said some really warm and good things about her. But he also said, even though that he believes that she is clearly qualified to be president, and that's why he chose her, even if someone showed him data that showed that she did better than him, unless he sees data that he can't win, this doesn't sound like a man that's thinking about.
There's so much data that shows he can't win. Like, so much data. Overwhelming amounts of data. Okay? He's just not looking at it. He ain't looking at it. They're not showing him the data, except they are, by the way. They are showing him that data because he knows that there is data out there. Because he has also said that data is fake. You've literally said yourself, you still think he can win like yesterday? Chatter, do you think that's how this works? You have to look at the polls, you have to look at the trends, and you also have to literally look at what you should be performing at in comparison to how you're performing. This is not a 50-50 race, man. It should not be a 50-50 race. Just because he still can win doesn't mean that, like, the actual data is not spelling genuine trouble for Biden. I did say there is a likelihood, there is a chance that Biden still could win in spite of everything. That does not mean that, one, he's the best possible candidate, and that certainly does not mean he is going to win absolutely.
Getting out.
That's a great point. I thought it was an excellent question, actually, by that the last reporter there with that counterfactual. I thought it was a really interesting question and straightforward and well delivered. I thought, actually, the questions generally were quite good. Nicole, your thoughts after watching that?
Well, I think the reporter who asked the second question about the president mixing up Vladimir Putin and President Zelensky went right at what this is really about, right? Are you in decline, was his answer. And I thought it was a good moment for the journalists for having the courage to, those rooms can be intimidating. And it was a good moment for the president to take that on and give his answer. And again, it's not up to us.
I think the funniest part is, like, if he does end up dropping out in a couple years, or even if he doesn't end up dropping out, in a couple years, we'll look back at this and be like, how insane that we thought this dude who was, like, very clearly in the throes of Alzheimer's, running desperately for office, when, like, he just couldn't even string coherent sentences together all the time. Like, I think about that all the time. I'm literally like how are we like, to me it seems unimaginable because I've been here for 5 years. Like, it just sounds so stupid on paper. I can pull myself out of the immediacy of the situation and just look at it with a broader lens. And I'm just like, how is this a thing? Like, how is this even a question? It doesn't make sense at all. And I know we're just going to look back at it and be like, dude, that was crazy. Remember when the president couldn't say words and people were still like, yeah, no, for sure, we have to let him get across the finish line.
It's up to the voters and it's up to the Democrats whether or not they accept that answer. I think that this is another split screen moment. I mean, my understanding is that tomorrow a political dam is likely to break. CBS News is reporting tonight that 40 Democrats are likely to break with President Joe Biden tomorrow. There's a report in ABC News that people who were at the Juneteenth event report seeing the Joe Biden that the world saw at the debate, an echo to the George Clooney letter from yesterday. I think we were reminded of all of this president's strengths. I think that the room disappeared when David Sanger of the New York Times asked this president about China, and you got the impression he would have stood there and talked to David Sanger for 45 more minutes. He wasn't in a hurry. He wasn't defensive. The tough questions in some ways served him better than anything else in the room. But I think that the other train is in motion. And I think, you know, two things on the politics. There's no incumbent president with lower approval ratings who won. There are only 3 with lower approval ratings than he has right now, and they all lost. Donald Trump, George H.W. Bush, and Jimmy Carter. So some of the political information is what worries some folks in his inner circle. And there is right now no poll that shows him winning.
Yeah, I think that's all well said. I mean, the political calculations, I thought, you know, him saying that I would drop out if they said there's no way he could win, and no poll shows that. Of course, no single poll could show that, right? So this is fundamentally him saying that is, to me, puts his finger on what has made this so difficult. And so
you feel like you watch a different press conference? No, you just don't understand what the media's motivations are. Like, mainstream media is going to hear him say, you know, how he beefed up NATO and how wonderful of a statesman he was. Okay. And they're going to respond I told you that they were going to respond like this. Even before the actual presser occurred. These are things that Rachel Maddow cares about quite a bit. Okay. And chat said copium. And now we're watching them do exactly what I told you they would do. What is Axios publicist scoop from Alex Thompson, who's been doing great work so far this election cycle. Anita Dunn, Bob Bauer, Jeff Zients, and Ron Klain. Biden shrunk his inner circle. They've been relegated below Biden's trio of longtime advisors plus FLOTUS, First Lady of the United States, top aide, aka the loyalty police. That's good. Biden's inner circle had already shrunk, and it's shrunk further since the June 2017 debate that has jeopardized Biden's re-election campaign. You've been having insane turnaround times on I Told You So's recently. I know, I'm kind of popping off with the vindication. It's vindication station up in this bitch. Over and over again. Oh my God. Yeah, the walls are closing in, baby. It's crazy because, like, another pattern that I have been mentioning quite frequently lately is that this is so Trumpian, okay? It is so Trumpian, dude. Like, this is literally what happened to Trump in 2020. Unimaginable narcissism being the primary motivator for this man to stay in. The chaos that it is causing internally inside of the party. That is what Trump did. That is exactly what Trump did in 2020. That is part of the reason why some of the moderates and independents in the suburbs shifted to the Democratic ticket. And Biden and the Democratic Party has been lasering in on those voters in the suburbs non-stop. And they're throwing the bag. They're throwing the independent and the moderate bag. It's crazy. Not really. Only Trump could be a Republican nominee. Biden can be replaced by any Dem. That, you're right about that. Yes. The Republican Party is in a state of panic due to the success of a lot of the Republican party, and they've become too reactionary. You are right about that. I said this yesterday, and it bears repeating. The takeaway from this, yesterday's Biden presser, is that he is a malignant narcissist that's sowing chaos and disorder in the Democratic Party, which was, ironically, the strongest position the Dems had against Trump and the Republicans, especially among moderate voters and independents. The strongest thing that Biden has and the Democratic Party has going for it is that they're the adults in the room. They're the adults in the room. The strongest reason for why Biden was elected in 2020 as the presidential candidate in the primaries was that he was the method. He was the movement. He was the guy who was going to defeat Donald Trump. He's lost both of those things. He's lost it all. Anyway,